Hello and welcome to Crime Watch Daily Updates. I'm your host, Anna Garcia. 22-year-old Zuzu Verk went to her boyfriend's house for what should have been a romantic dinner. Instead, she ended up dead. Zuzu was a college student at Sul Ross State University in Alpine, Texas, and started dating a man named Robert Fabian. Some of Zuzu's friends were wary of her new beau, saying that he appeared needy and manipulative. The two had an on-again, off-again relationship, and Zuzu apparently wanted things to go in the off direction as she planned on transferring to Texas A&M University without him. On October 11th of 2016, Zuzu went to Robert's apartment for dinner. He even set up candles and he bought her some champagne, but that would be the last time anyone saw Zuzu. Her friends and family grew concerned because she wasn't responding to text messages and calls, and Robert claimed Zuzu left his home in the early hours of October 12th. She was reported missing 2 days later on October 14th. Even though he called in her disappearance, Robert seemed suspicious. While speaking with police, he reportedly talked about Zuzu in the past tense. He also didn't attend searches or a vigil for his girlfriend. Robert soon became a person of interest in Zuzu's disappearance. In February of 2017, investigators found Zuzu's body in a shallow grave, which led to Robert's arrest. He was taken into custody for tampering with evidence by concealing a human corpse. His friend, Chris Estrada, was also arrested for tampering with evidence because he allegedly helped Robert move Zuzu's body. Chris pleaded no contest and was sentenced to 42 months in prison and 12 months for evading arrest, which stemmed from another case. He testified at Robert's trial and said that Robert confessed to strangling Zuzu to death. Robert was convicted in May of 2019 of murder and of tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to life in prison. Robert appealed the conviction, but in 2021, a higher court affirmed that ruling. Let's look back at a case of a young woman whose romantic evening turned into a night of terror and tragedy.
Do you know what happened to Zuzu? It's an interview you only saw on Crime Watch Daily. An interview with new meaning today. Chris Estrada grilled about the disappearance of Zuzu Verk. Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
I did not.
Today, we've got breaking news on the troubling mystery. Estrada is now behind bars. So is his friend, Robert Fabian, who was Verk's boyfriend at the time she went missing. And with a heavy heart, investigators confirmed her family's worst fear.
We do have a positive ID through dental records that remains found in Brewster County were that of Zuzu Verk.
She's just a beautiful ray of light.
The vibrant 22-year-old college student vanished without a trace after a night with her boyfriend, Robert Fabian. According to the newly released arrest warrant, Robert told investigators he invited Zuzu over for a romantic dinner that included a massage. But he says the two got into an argument about his ex-girlfriend, and he watched her drive away between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Zuzu would never be seen again.
Helicopters, ground search. We covered every cul-de-sac, every neighborhood in town.
Zuzu had only been missing for about a month when we first went to Alpine, Texas to investigate. At the time, police seemed to be looking at one man, and one man only.
Lori, what were your initial impressions of Robert?
You know, as any parent might think, well, yeah, he's nice, but he's not good enough for you, for my daughter. I texted Robert and said, have you heard from her? And he said, oh no, I thought I was just giving her space. I haven't heard from her either. I thought she was ignoring me. And he found out that she had missed a shift at work, that she didn't show up for her midterms.
After that, Zuzu's parents relocate to Alpine to help with the search. As for Robert, he was suddenly nowhere to be seen.
I mean, we were all embracing each other. We're going through all kinds of emotions and desperate to find her. And everyone in town, all of her friends, were out there with us, and he was the only one that was missing.
According to search warrant affidavits, on the night Zuzu disappeared, Robert makes 2 unanswered phone calls to his good friend, Chris Estrada, who sat down with Crime Watch Daily for over an hour, answering every question I had.
In my opinion, you can read a lot about a person by just their eyes.
It was to be his first ever TV interview.
Are you going to be honest with us? Deal. You didn't have to do this interview. Why'd you do it?
No one is, vocally standing up for my side or Robert. It's just been one-sided.
So you don't think Robert had anything to do with Zuzu's disappearance?
We'd be circling back to that question. But first, I wanted to know more about how Chris got pulled into the case in the first place.
All right. Police say that Robert called you twice, 3:15 a.m. On October 12th. What did Robert want to talk about at 3:15 a.m.? And remember, this is the early morning where it is believed Zuzu goes missing.
He never really said. Later on, at some point, he just asked me if I wanted to help him paint a table. And I said sure.
Paint a table at 3:15 a.m.? Those 3 words will take on new significance later in this story.
The police also say that you picked up Robert in your Mustang later that day.
Correct.
Why?
We cruised around. And we went back to his place. We just had, a few drinks.
Nothing seemed off about him?
He was laughing, smiling. Seemed fine to me.
And then came the big moment. The main reason I wanted to talk to Chris in the first place.
I want to make it very clear. You, Chris Estrada, do you know what happened to Zuzu?
I do not.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
I did not.
You are not an accomplice to a crime?
No.
Is Zuzu still alive?
I don't know.
Are you covering for Robert at all? I do a lot of these interviews. And I'm wondering whether I should believe you. How do I know right now you're not BSing me?
You wouldn't know.
And technically, he was right. We wouldn't know. But we did find someone who might.
Why are you leaving those elements out?
We brought in expert interrogation specialist Stan the Lie Guy Walters, who helps train police officers around the country in the art of detecting deception.
Stan, I spent over an hour with Chris Estrada asking him some very tough questions, and you went ahead and scrutinized that interview. Overall thoughts on Chris Estrada?
In my opinion, Chris is withholding a lot of information that would be critical to this investigation.
It's an opinion Stan says he formed after watching for certain facial cues, or what he calls emotional leaks.
There's several places to notice in his interview that he demonstrated his contempt for the interview, contempt for the situation, that you're beneath me.
And one of those moments, Stan says, came right at the beginning of our conversation.
Are you going to be honest with us?
Deal.
You see the movement over here, see how this cheek is higher? It's that, really, whatever.
It's what Stan calls a contempt signal.
It's contempt, like, I'm fooling with this. You ask me these questions. Who are you to question this? And it's a contempt toward the other individual, disdain, dislike, scorn, that the other person is beneath me.
But of all the telling moments from our conversation, it was the end that caught Stan's attention the most.
Do you know what happened to Zuzu?
I do not.
Gets that quick, real fast contempt.
Are you covering for Robert at all?
And you got a huge reaction out of that. One of the big responses you got.
Stan calls it an anger signal and says he saw it in Chris.
Emotions are hardwired. They're very difficult to suppress. The hardest line to accomplish is one about emotion.
Stan's opinion?
I don't believe he was involved, from the questions you've asked, that he was involved actually in what happened to her. But he's withholding information that would help this investigation.
And that's exactly what police are saying today, after a Border Patrol agent stumbled upon the remains of Zuzu Verk. Estrada is arrested 650 miles away in Phoenix. He had just moved from Texas to Arizona. Both he and Fabian are facing a charge of tampering with evidence by concealing or hiding a corpse. Police say additional charges are expected soon. Fabian is being held on a $500,000 bond.
We have specific timelines about what happened, and we have ideas about what happened.
That timeline is laid out in this arrest warrant affidavit. Police say the night Zuzu vanished, Fabian was captured on surveillance video using Estrada's credit card to purchase 3 packaged items resembling plastic painter's drop cloths. The report goes on to say thin plastic sheets that were consistent with the plastic painter's drop cloths purchased by Robert were found at the site of Zuzu's body.
I want to make sure that they are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
The news leaving Zuzu's family with mixed emotions.
I'm relieved that we've found her, but extremely saddened that I'm never really going to see her again.
There's a lot of people that miss Zuzu. There's a lot of people that love Zuzu.
I'm just gonna miss her passion and just her laugh. I'm gonna miss her laugh so much.
Will you miss her advice?
Not really. But she always did give good advice. I just didn't really listen most of the time.
Yeah, we'll be together again, but physically, I don't get to hold my daughter. She was taken away. So yeah, I'll miss that.
The police chief in Alpine says several of Fabian's relatives, including his mom, sister, and brother-in-law, who also talked to our Jason Matera, are considered persons of interest in the case. And the chief added that more arrests, quote, will eventually be made. A memorial service for Verk was held today at Sul Ross State University, where Zuzu was studying conservation biology.